Hi, in this episode, we're going to show you how to configure the NFS server side. The steps are fairly simple. First, what you need is something that you are going to share across the network. This is some directory that you can create or some directory which you already have that you wish to share over the network. Then, next, you need to install the necessary NFS packages in order for you to then share using that NFS protocol. Once you install the necessary package, then the configuration file for NFS is called etc exports. In there, you can list the directory that you're sharing and where you are sharing that directory, whether that's with a single server or anyone who have access over the network to your server. Then, once you have configured the service to work as you need to, then you can simply start and enable the NFS server systemctl utility or systemd utility. Of course, when someone connects to your server, there is going to be firewall traffic on these three specific services. So your next step is to configure the firewall for NFS traffic for the protocol RPC bind, and mount D. Once you have done all those steps, that's it. Then your share is ready to be mounted over the network. So coming up in this next lab, we're going to go through all of these steps and create our own NFS share that we will eventually be mounting over the network. Please join us in this next lab. In this episode, we're going to show you how to configure an NFS server. Now, this is essentially going to be setting up a file system that can be mounted over the network by NFS clients. So to set it up, I'm going to go ahead and open Activities, open up the terminal, and to begin, we need the necessary software. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually switch to my root user, as I'm going to be running some elevated commands. The very first thing you need is something to share. So I'm actually going to create a directory called NFS data. And that'll be the directory that I share. I can also create some file inside there, so I can say touch inside NFS data, my project file, right? This is something that we're sharing. Now, in order to share it over the network using NFS, of course, you do need the necessary software and services running. So I'm going to install using dnf install the package called nfs-utils. And I'm actually going to add a -y option or flag that's going to preemptively say yes to any sort of question which is asked of me to confirm the installation and downloading of the packages. So let's go ahead and download the necessary packages that are needed to set up NFS. All right, so there seems to be all that downloaded and it's ready to go. Now we have a directory called NFS data, and we have the NFS package. Now we are going to create or configure the exports file in order to, publish this directory as a share directory. So here I'm actually going to say vi, and the file name is etc exports. So these are all the file system that I am planning to export with NFS. So here, the first thing I'm going to put is the directory which I'm sharing. And the second thing I'm going to put who I am sharing with. So here I can put an IP address or a host name. What I'm going to do is actually put a star, meaning I am sharing with anyone who have access to my server IP address and is able to connect to me. And in bracket, I'm going to be putting specific options, like what are the read and write options. So I'm going to say read and write, and then comma, and then the second option is optional, but I'm going to say no underscore root underscore squash. And what that means is that on the client side, whenever a root user accesses my network share, that they should not lose their root permission. Even though it's not root on my server, do not squash the root permission from my client servers. So I'm going to press this. This is my, I'm going to press escape :WQ to save this. And now I'm going to start my NFS server service. So systemctl start NFS server, and also systemctl enable NFS server to make sure that if my server shuts down and restarts, well, then NFS is actually still in there. It's still working. All right, and now I can actually type export fs -r just to make sure, export fs, so I can find out who I'm sharing with. So it says I'm sharing this directory with the world, and that's the plan. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is actually configure the firewall to allow NFS traffic, and there's 3 separate services that are actually going to need to be available via the firewall. So the command to do that is firewall-cmd, and I'm going to put a permanent flag. I'm going to say add service equals NFS. Then the second service is called RPC bind. And then the third service is called mount D. Once you've added these services, you can say firewall-cmd reload to reload the firewall with these configuration changes. Now you can see if I type firewall-cmd list all, you can see mount D, NFS, and RPC bind are available via this firewall. So when a client now connects to me, they're able to mount my NFS share without, these sort of issues of mounting and accessing the network share. So with that being said, this concludes this episode, setting up an NFS server. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.